Welcome, everybody, to another podcast from the Sports for Life podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. Again, it's a pleasure to be here today and discuss some more basketball. Today, we're going to be discussing the NBA Finals Game 3 post game review of the San Antonio Spurs versus the New York Knicks. Now, the series is currently at an advantage for the New York Knicks, who are up 2-1, who have taken 2 games in San Antonio, and now they have lost 1 game in New York. So, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to break down the game. I'm going to discuss each quarter. I'm going to discuss both teams and what I saw today differently than the other 2 games. And also, I'm going to discuss basically what I saw happen throughout the game. And I'm going to explain exactly where the tide turned for the Spurs to sneak away with a 115-111 win over the Knicks. So first I'm going to go through the quarters. In the first quarter, the Spurs led, 33-22. Second quarter, they were outscored 42-24. In the third quarter, they outscored the Knicks 35-27, and in the final quarter, the Spurs outscored the Knicks 23-20. The final of the game was 115 for the Spurs, 111 for the Knicks. And what I saw here from both teams, basically, I saw a similar shooting game from both teams. They had players on each side that didn't perform well, who I felt were key players. However, the supporting cast for each team played really well. And just to break that down a little bit and exactly what I mean is let's start with the Knicks. So as always, so far in the series, the star player for the New York Knicks, for me, well, I wouldn't say star player, but I would say key player, is OG Anunoby. And OG Anunoby had 28 points. He was 9 for 13 from field goal. He was 3 of 7 from 3-point and 7 of 9 from the free throw line. He had 2 blocks, assists, and 5 rebounds. He only had 1 turnover. And that's very important here because OG Anunoby, he's a very sneaky player. If you watch him play and you see how he has been constantly staying in the game, each of the games that have been played so far, sneaky, putting up points, key defensive plays. Often you see him guarding Wemby, as I mentioned before, and the game plan continues to stay the same for the New York Knicks. Karl Anthony Towns had a terrible game this game. He really didn't play well at all. He had 11 points. He was 4 for 10 from the floor. He was 0 of 2 from 3, and he was 3 of 3 from the free throw line, and he played 38 minutes. He did contribute a little bit aside from that. He had 8 rebounds, which was good. He had 1 assist, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and he only had 1 turnover. So that's not bad. However, from a guy of his caliber, being, either the top to second tier, like top or second best player on the team, you would expect more from him to help carry the load for this Knicks team. And what I saw was he really didn't shoot the ball well. However, he was still there actively, playing defense and staying on Wemby and switching, and he showed a lot of hustle and energy, and that's obviously good for the team to help them continue to fight and battle in the series. But again, the offensive output that Karl Anthony Towns usually gives is 20 plus points a game, and he didn't do that this game. He was a bit short, and he did not shoot the ball well. And I'm a little happy that I didn't see him shoot the ball more if he was having this kind of shooting game, because once you don't have the momentum, it doesn't make sense for you to continue to force up shots. Because if you're not on the ball, it's very hard for you to start streaking later on in the game and start scoring and to take control of the game. So it's good that he kind of just deferred a little bit. However, yeah, like I said, OG Anunoby was 9 of 13 and 3 of 7 from 3. So he was accurate, he was efficient. I would have loved to see OG maybe take a bit more shots than that since he was 9 of 13 from the floor. It makes more sense that he would get more touches basically because if he's that efficient, 9 of 13 and 3 of 7 is not great, but it's not terrible as well. It's not horrible. So he was scoring, he was finding his way, and again, 28 points for OG, and I think that you know, if he got more touches, it would have been a bit better. Maybe they should have looked for him a little bit more. Let him cut a little bit more, keep the ball moving a little bit more, and then that would have made them a bit more dynamic, and they would have also got a little bit more points coming from him. Josh Hart had 16 points today, which last game I think he had 3 points all game, and he was 6 of 10 from the floor and 4 of 7 from three. So he had a better game this game. He had 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and he had 2 turnovers. So from Josh Hart, we saw a lot of offensive output this game, which was important because last game he didn't show up. Again, 5 assists, 9 rebounds, and it's showing that he's active as well, and that's good for his position and what he does. He's exactly doing what he needs to do. I didn't see any steals or blocks from him this game, so that's a bit concerning, a bit disappointing because he had a good streak going where he was putting up those intangibles, which is the blocks and steals on the defensive side. So that wasn't there. Mikal Bridges, he had a disappointing game. He played 29 minutes. He had 2 points, 1 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3-point land, and he had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, and 1 turnover. So, you know, not good. Not good from Mikal Bridges, not especially with what his value is and what he's supposed to bring to the team. It's disappointing to see his output and Karl Anthony Towns' output. Now, Jalen Brunson again put up a lot of shots. He scored 32 points in 35 minutes of play. He was 11 for 25 from the floor, 3 of 5 from three, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. He had 5 assists, 5 rebounds, but he had 5 turnovers. So again, Jalen Brunson had not a good game overall. From three, he was okay. From the free throw line, he's okay. His field goals were a bit high where he wasn't really scoring. I guess he was forcing it a little bit at times, and he didn't really find his flow entirely. And that, missed opportunities is other opportunities for, if your team can grab an offensive rebound, that's for them. And if not, then it's for the other team to grab the defensive rebound and move the ball and get opportunities. So, I'm not a big fan of them forcing it. However, I do understand he is the star player. He is the guy carrying the team. He needs to be better percentage wise from scoring field goals. And, it's understandable that he would take a high amount of shots. I'm not going to go against that, say, hey, defer. He needs to step up. He needs to lead the team and be the driving force. As you know, last game he was the guy to finish the game off and secure the win for the Knicks. So, that's okay. I'll live with that. Miles McBride, 0 points off the bench. Jordan Clarkson had 10 points off the bench. It was nice to see him a little bit active this game. I know Jordan Clarkson from since a long time ago when he used to play on the Lakers and he used to play for Utah and things like that. He is a good player. He's a good scorer. He can bring a lot of momentum to a team off the bench, especially. I think he's a very good player. I like him a lot. He can shoot the three. He can defend. He can play transition ball, and he was 4 of 7 from the floor. He had 2 for 2 from three, which is excellent. And he had 3 rebounds, one assist, 1 steal, and he had 2 turnovers, which obviously isn't good, but it's not terrible. So coming off the bench, a little punch for the Knicks, which is great. Jose Alvarado played 12 minutes, 4 points, 2 of 5 from the floor, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. So again, a little bit of effort from the bench. Mitch Robinson, he had 4 rebounds, 5 points. He played 7 minutes only. I think that it's hard for them to have him there, And I do believe when it comes to Mitch Robinson, I think he will be a free agent at the end of this year, and I think he'll leave. I think one team that needs him, the Lakers, might be a team that might sign him, offer him big money, and bring him in because they need a solid center who can start and play. The only thing with Mitch Robinson is he can't shoot at all. He's just a big body. He's athletic, which is good. He's a lob catcher. He can catch the lob, dunk the ball. He can play post defense very well. He's a very good defender, good rebounder, boxes out, knows how to play in the post. Um, and I think that he'll be a key asset to another team. I know that they were trying to trade him, but then they decided to keep him because they didn't want to have no option at center, which was a smart move by the Knicks. But again, 7 minutes of play is not much. And rebounding wise and defensively, he's a key player for them. And I think that he should have gotten more minutes. They should find more ways to bring him into the team and lineup for him to play. Bully ball in the paint, show a little bit of aggressiveness for this team because they're an undersized team by playing Carl Anthony Towns at the five because he's not a center. He's not a true center. He's a power forward. And playing him at center, you're not ideally having a strong paint presence lineup when he's on the floor. He's more of a spread the floor and shoot guy. And then the Knicks also are more of a team rebounding guy with OG, Josh Hart. So that kind of makes up for it, and that's why it works. So flipping over to the Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs also had a pretty balanced shooting night, similar to this. The scoring and offensive output was similar by each teams, where both teams were actually shooting. They had a few guys that didn't perform well. They had other guys that stood out, and then they had a little output from the bench. And that's basically how this game went offensively. Devin Vassell had 11 points. He was 3 of 4 field goals and 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. And he was 2 of 3 from the free throw line. He had 1 turnover. So a good output from Devin Vassell. Like it's not a lot. He didn't score a lot, but his output was effective. He was 3 of 4 from 3. He hit 3 threes out of 4 and 2 of 3 from the free throw line. So excellent output and 4 rebounds as well to go with that. So solid, very solid. Julian Champagne, he played 27 minutes. This time he played less minutes, which I like to see that he was playing less minutes. Um, he's a good player, but if he's not efficient or too effective, then it doesn't make sense to really push him too much. I think he was getting a little fatigued the game before where his minutes were about 11 minutes more. Instead of playing 27, I think he played 38 minutes. And what happened was I think he was getting fatigued in the second half. They ran him too much. They need to dig into the bench a little bit for these guys and give them a little bit more rest so they don't burn out. And I believe that's what was happening in game 1 and 2 with the Spurs. They're so focused defensively on trying to do what they have to do, push the ball, control their side of the tempo. And what ends up happening is that the guys start burning out. So, it's important to balance the team and get these guys the right amount of rest and not overexert them. Again, it's been a long playoff run for both of these teams, and they shouldn't be burnt out, right? They shouldn't be pushed to those limits unless it's absolutely necessary. If the game is coming down to like overtime or it's coming down to the last like 5 minutes of the game and it's a tight game, I can understand if you got to squeeze in, a few extra minutes for somebody to make a difference to win the game, right? So Julian Champagne he had in 27 minutes 12 points, 4 of 9 from field goal, 3 of 7 from 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers. For him in his position and him as a player, that's an amazing output. That's very good. That's very good for him. Being a solid role player, not being a leader or not being a main, one of the main players. It's a solid output from Julian Champagne, and it's a good contribution to the team, and it also allowed an output from other players off the bench. So Stephen Castle played 38 minutes. He had 23 points, 8 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 turnovers. Stephen Castle played an amazing game. Excellent game to bounce back from the previous game. Very aggressive. Continuing to attack the basket through contact, continue to take fouls, go to the free throw line, and just be aggressive. He at times stopped the game, the tempo of the game, isolated, went one on one with his matchup, took his matchup to the hole, and then continued to be aggressive, push the ball. And that's exactly what, he's been so consistent with. However, it wasn't enough. It hasn't been enough for him. This game 3, 23 points, 8 of 14, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Very good output from Stephen Castle to help the Spurs put these points up on the board here. De'Aaron Fox, my guy. I like De'Aaron Fox a lot from since a long time ago. I was always following De'Aaron Fox. I really like him. But he had 37 minutes and he had 12 points, 4 of 14 from the floor, 0 of 5 from 3. Very bad shooting day for him. Very bad. He was 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers. So again, he did not shoot the ball well. However, outside of that, he played really well from an energy and effort point of view. So, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He's all over the place. He was doing everything. And, when you're not shooting the ball well, you have to turn over to be able to contribute otherwise for your team, whether it's hustle, energy, providing that, providing rebounds, providing, transition points. You got to find ways to contribute. Me being a former basketball player playing way back when, I was never the most athletic. I was never the best scorer overall. I was never number one in anything. However, the one thing I always had was hustle. The one thing I always did was find ways to contribute to help my team win always. Whether it's, rebounding, boxing out, going up against certain players, trapping, pushing the tempo, leaking out, seeing where they struggled, looking for areas I could expose them. And that's what I lean towards trying to make our team highlight to be, better at. And here, seeing De'Aaron Fox do that, that's great. That's good. Obviously, the offensive output, seeing the 14 field goal attempts entirely and 0 for 5 from 3, that's definitely not good for his team. He's got to be better in the next game, game 4. He's got to score 20 plus points, lower the discrepancy between the made shots and missed shots, and he's got to be a little bit more efficient. However, the energy needs to be exactly the same as of this game of what he did. He was very active. Then going on to Victor Wembanyama, the star player of the San Antonio Spurs. He had 39 minutes, 32 points. He was 11 of 18 from the floor. He was 2 of 4 from 3. He was 8 of 9 from the free throw line. He had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 1 turnover, which is very good. What a solid play by Victor Wembanyama. He really came out this game and did a lot better than before. Again, I would like to see Wembanyama's field goal attempts go up. He only had 18 field goal attempts. He needs to shoot the ball more. I saw a couple plays with Victor Wembanyama where he was in the paint, he caught the ball and he kind of hesitated. No one was around him and he was like kind of looking to pass, and then he just pulled up and shot the ball and then the ball went in. And right away when he caught it, I was like, shoot it. Like, he has to become more selfish when it comes to recognizing what the defense is giving him, and he has to understand that he's got to be aggressive. He has to be aggressive. He has to stop with this unselfish mentality, like just my teammates. You cannot do that. When LeBron James, and I'm going back now to LeBron James from his career, when LeBron James was in his prime, when he was on the the Cavs from after, a few years in, and he's kind of got the got familiar with how things work, and his numbers started to go up and everything. He would take over games. LeBron James would take over games. He would be the guy. He would go against the defense. He would, go straight at people and score and do what he had his way with them. He exposed them. And now he's not like that because he's not in that kind of shape. He's 40 plus years old, which we understand. He still does things when he has to or tries to, and he has those random moments where he does. But Wemby has to take control of the game. You know, the defense is giving you an open jump shot, from a free throw line jump shot. You are an excellent shooter. Like you can catch fire very easily, Wemby. And you got to stay active. You have to be aware, hey, defense gave me this, or a mismatch, you take it, you go at it. So seeing 18 field goal attempts from Wemby, it's very disappointing. He needs to have 20 plus attempts a game. He needs to be in control. He needs to take control, and he needs to continue to dominate because they say he's a freak. He's a freak athlete. He's a great scorer. He's a good defender. He's in the future of the league. So he's got to start now. Like now is your window to do it, right? So seeing his output, he had a good output. He had 32 points and he did his thing. However, there were times when I saw him hesitate, and that's not good. This is not the time for that. You got to be aggressive. You got to put your best foot forward, and you got to keep taking control of the game, especially with how the previous game went when it's just slipped by a point. You cannot have things like that happen. You have to. Fourth quarter comes, it's Wemby time. Wemby's got to, attract the defense, bring them in, cause them to start making adjustments. And then Wemby's got to, if he has to move the ball, throw the ball around. Let the ball swing around the key. Let them move around. Let them find the open guy. Get them the best look possible and go from there. But if you're leaving Wemby open, or, Mitch Robinson or Cat or whoever's guarding Wemby is not pressing on him, and they're giving him space, and they're allowing him to shoot the ball from, a mid-range jump shot wide open, you take that every time. I mean, you're a professional NBA player, and not only are you a professional NBA player, but you're Victor Wembanyama. So you gotta, you have to take that shot, and if you make it 1 out of 3 times, you take it. You continue to take that shot. Um, because once you show that you're not aggressive and confident, it's not helping your teammates, right? When Wemby starts knocking those kinds of shots down, it's going to force the defense to make adjustments. When the defense makes adjustments, that's going to open up opportunities for the rest of your teammates to get looks as well. And it's up to the coaching staff to put in on the floor whoever is hot, whoever can shoot, whoever can make those shots. That's the adjustments that need to be made by the coaching staff to surround Wemby with the people that can contribute when given a good look or an open look or whatever the case is. It's all about reading, who's hot, who can get hot, who has the ability to make those kinds of shots and make a difference offensively. And again, coaching staff plus players, whoever can maintain that and put up those kinds of points, sort of like the OG Anunoby thing on the Knicks side. You can depend on him to be aggressive, attack the basket, score. You can depend on him to make the 3-point shot. So you can't really afford to sleep on them defensively. They will torch you. The Knicks will torch you. The Spurs, they are a good team and they're solid, but they're a bit streaky at times. You'll see different things happen. With the Knicks, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get the Brunson punch. You're going to get the Karl Anthony Towns punch. You're going to get the OG Anunoby contribution. And then you're going to get, what the hustle and energy and whatnot from Josh Hart. And then you're going to get some defense and scoring from Bridges. Like that's how they operate, right? You don't know what you're going to get from Champagne. You don't know what you're going to get from Devin Vassell. You expect Stephen Castle to show up, you expect Fox to show up, and you expect Wemby to show up. So, 2 out of the 3 there hit Castle and Wemby, but Fox didn't show up. and Brunson and OG showed up, and Cat didn't show up. So you're, but however, the other two, sorry, what's his name? He showed up. Josh Hart, sorry, I lost his name there. Josh Hart showed up. So now that's the breakdown between both of the teams and what I saw. I saw a lot of Luke Cornett again. 9 minutes. It looks like this is how it's going to be. They're going to ride Luke Cornett. He did better this game. He rebounded a bit better. He had 2 assists. He had a steal. Didn't turn the ball over. Um, he was 0 for 1, 0 for 1 from the floor, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. He had 2 points. Just came in to buy time basically for Wemby. His defense this game was a lot better. He was hustling a bit more. He was a bit more aggressive. I saw a little bit of energy from him, pushing guys around and kind of pushing himself into the paint, bumping people and trying to go in there and just cause a little bit of chaos, which is good. He grabbed 5 rebounds in those 9 minutes, which is really good. So, I know I've been knocking on the Luke Cornett door a lot, but because they do have Plumlee and they do have Biombo, but they're deciding to ride Cornett. So, I'm hoping that it doesn't come back to bite them later on if that's how they're going to play. But it seems like there's a very tight lineup by this team. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they have 1, 2, 3, 4 players off the bench. So they're riding a very tight rotation, and I hope that it doesn't come back to bite the Spurs where they burn out after, because they're heavy minutes for all of these guys. They're riding a lot of minutes, especially Wemby played 39 minutes. So they got to be very mindful of that. It's a high tempo game. There's a lot of transition points. The ball's being pushed around a lot, and it's guys are going to get tired. They're going to burn out, and that's what I've seen with the Spurs in the past 2 games. Not this game, not game 3, game 1 and 2. I've seen them, the effort drop, the energy drop, and then it allowed the Knicks to come back in the first game and win, and then the second game allowed the Knicks to just graze by in the end. So a little fatigue kicking in there. It looks like these guys got to be mindful of that. Coaching staff has to be aware. You cannot do the Tom Thibodeau thing where Tom Thibodeau was playing 6 or 7 players, like a 7 player lineup, and the guys were burning out. The guys were getting exhausted, and when it came into their playoff push, that's where they weren't able to sustain. So, in summary, my what impressed me with the Spurs this game was a neck and neck game, as you know, because the score was a 4 point game. It wasn't a blowout by any means. There wasn't anyone who made any crazy, you know, um, it wasn't a crazy output from any team for them to win. But the Spurs did something this game that I was impressed with, and it's exactly as I was discussing last game. Post game 2 that I posted, the Spurs were active on defense, and that is the difference of this game versus the Knicks, versus game 2. The Spurs, they were moving on defense, they were rotating, they weren't leaving people open, they were hustling to their man. Anybody they saw open, they were hustling to them. They were trying to make sure they were closing out properly. They weren't just, running and jumping at people. They were keeping themselves poised. They were rotating. They were switching. They were running around screens, under screens. They stayed on their guys. They kept the pressure on. They knew they can't allow, mismatches, switches, and too much open shots from the Knicks because they're a streaky team and that's how they get hot. One guy, he makes a jump shot open here, he comes back down, he makes another shot, he starts getting hot. And once they get hot, the Knicks, there's nothing the Spurs can do to shut it down because it's a momentum thing, and that's what I saw. Same thing in game 1 where they came back and they won the Knicks. They got hot, and defensively, the Spurs couldn't do anything. So the best way that they got to play defense against the Knicks is to keep them contained. And the best time that they did it, they kept the game close until halftime. And in the third quarter, they outscored the Knicks. In the fourth quarter, they outscored the Knicks. And that's how they won this game by 4 points. In the third and fourth quarter, the energy was there. The offensive output was there. They came out of halftime. They lit it up. They scored 35 points after the Knicks scored 42 in the second. The Spurs came out in the third and scored 35 points. And the Knicks scored only 27 points in the fourth quarter. The Spurs scored 23 points. And the Knicks scored 20 points. So they came out offensively better than the Knicks and defensively better than the Knicks in the second half. And that's how they were able to edge this win. Now, it wasn't significant. However, they stopped any sort of momentum from the Knicks in the second half and kept it contained, held on to their lead, and then won the game. Just as I expected, I thought the Spurs were going to come in and take game three. It was absolutely mandatory for them to win game three because the New York Knicks, if they had won this game, it would be 3-0 and the series would have been over. Now it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in game four. My prediction is that the Spurs will come out in game four and they will tie the series to 2-2. I think that in the third game, now the coaching staff has footage of proof of what they need to do to win and how they need to play. And they're letting Jalen Brunson kind of do his thing, but in the second half, they did their thing on him to keep him contained, and stop anybody else from bringing in any momentum that would be significant for them to beat the Spurs. So, again, in the fourth game coming up soon, the San Antonio Spurs, if they want to win, their keys to success, they have to keep their transition defense up. They got to score. They got to move the ball. Wemby has got to stay aggressive. He has to continue to score the ball, attract the attention, kick the ball out. Guys have to make shots. It's absolutely mandatory that they play this style of basketball if they want to win. If their defense isn't effective or they're not able to defend properly, they will not win game four. They cannot allow too much transition. They cannot allow too much offensive output from the Knicks, especially in the second half. It's going to be crucial to watch the second half to see where the tempo is, who has the momentum, who is stepping up, which team. And that will determine who wins the game. Because from a performance point of view, offensively, both teams were pretty much balanced. They balanced themselves out almost. Defensively is where the difference was for the Spurs, where the energy was up. They were more aggressive. They were more focused on the defensive side. They weren't just counting on their offense. And that's what allowed them to edge by. The Knicks now, Karl-Anthony Towns has to show up. He cannot be a no-show. They are very dependent on the starting lineup for this team. Bridges didn't show up as well, so having Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns not show up hurt them a lot. OG showed up, Brunson showed up, Josh Hart played really well, but it still wasn't enough because they didn't really get much of an offensive output from their bench. It was just Jordan Clarkson with 10 points, of Jose Alvarado, 4 points, Landry Shamet only 3 points, Mitch Robinson 5 points. So again, if your starting lineup isn't clicking and your bench isn't producing, it's a recipe of failure there. You're gonna be looking at being disappointed there. You have to either have your starting lineup contribute in the right way, and your bench, if they don't really contribute, your starting lineup can hold up. You're good to go. But if your starting lineup is kind of, there's some holes there where certain guys are not performing well, people got to come off the bench and got to help, because Jalen Brunson can't carry this team alone. He had 32 points, 3 of 5 from 3, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, and they still lost the game. So, it's not a one-man show by any means. Everybody's got to pitch in the right way. And defensively, had they been more aggressive, been more aware, active, the energy being there, maybe they would have won this game. But it didn't turn out that way. So game 4 will be shortly. I think game 4 will be, let me just get that right now for you. I think it's tomorrow. Yes. Game 3 is June 10th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's game 4. So currently the Knicks lead 2-1. Game 4 is June 10th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be played in Madison Square Garden in New York. And we will see what happens. If the Knicks win this game, the Spurs will have an opportunity to go back to San Antonio and play. Let me see what the schedule looks like. So game 2, 3, 4. They will go back to San Antonio for game 5, which should be played on Saturday, June 13th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then if they continue there, let's say the Spurs are still alive at that point, game 6 will be played in New York and on Tuesday, June 16th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then game 7 if necessary will be Friday, June 19th at 8:30 p.m. and that will be played in San Antonio. So if the Spurs win game 4 and the series is tied 2-2, you're looking at game 5 going in San Antonio, game 6 going in New York, and then game 7 going in San Antonio to be the final game, game 7. My prediction is that this will go 7 games. I don't think that I think if whoever hits 3 wins first, I do think that the other team will be very desperate to win, and they will it'll go back and forth basically. So that's my prediction. I think the Spurs will tie the series up 2-2, and then it will go to San Antonio for game 5. Maybe the Spurs win the next 2 games. It's possible. And then it goes into New York for game 6, and then New York wins that one, and then game 7 will be a do or die for each team, which would be an excellent NBA Finals if it does go to that. However, if the Spurs lose tomorrow, then they'll be down 3-1, and that's gonna be very hard for them to come back and win. They got to win multiple games in a row to stay alive, and I think that their energy, based on what I saw, their energy might be shot at that point. I don't think that they would have the ability to come back from 3-1 to tie and win potentially the series to win the title at the point. Again, my prediction: the Knicks should be the better team. The Knicks should win this series. We shouldn't get it confused here. Um, the Spurs are an excellent team. They're a great team. They're a very young team. I think they're the second youngest team in NBA Finals history to at this age. So they're a very, very young team, the Spurs, and the Knicks are just built better. They're overall built better. They have more star power. They got a better bench, and they should win the series. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there for the Sports for Life podcast. I just wanted to thank everybody who has joined the live and contributed to the live. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, please hit and smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and continue to follow us for any brand new content that we do release. Just wanted to take the time to thank everybody for their time, for tuning in. And until next time, we will tune in for the NBA Finals Game 4 post game. Once the game is completed, we'll have the post game either the same day in the night or we'll have it the next day in the morning. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great and fantastic evening.